Okay, 7 o'clock. Welcome to this full council meeting of Wimborne Minster. 7 o'clock. A couple of things before we start. Thank you very much those who came to the quiz on Monday. We had about 100 people, raised £700 for the Mayor's charities. That's fantastic. And thank you for those who are coming on Monday to Rosemary's for the dinner. We've got about 40 coming, so that's pretty good. So thanks for that. I think Lou wants to say a word about these cards that you all got.
So for those councillors that was DAPTC presented, he referred to a link that we have with Dorset Council. It's specific for town and parish councils, and there's an email and a telephone number for officers and officers and councillors. Feel free to use it. Keep the card. But you could request that if you do have any contact, that it comes through the office, just so we have an idea of what's going on and what the concerns are. Thank you.
Okay, then just remind you, it's being recorded. Be a bit careful, because Gary said to me, just came out really. He said that he watches back and he can hear if people just whisper to that neighbour, it all comes through. So I'm sure you're not whispering to your neighbours, but if you did, it's recorded. So if you can turn your mobile phones off, that'd be great. And regarding standing orders, I'm saying that if you'd rather sit and speak, you can do. You don't necessarily have to stand all the time. It's difficult for you. But it is important, I think, if you want to speak, you catch my eye and then I'll say, when it's your turn, you speak. Okay, so we don't sort of have a debating society thing, really. Okay, apologies for absence.
So we have received apologies from councillors Wheeler, who's with the band in France, Councillor Morgan, who's not well, Councillor Barnett, who's at a DC meeting, and Councillor Richmond, who's at a medical appointment. Okay,
would someone like to propose that we accept those apologies? Councillor
Jags,
yes, so there's 3 of that. And the seconder, Councillor Benton, all those in favour? Okay, thank you. Declaration of interest and request for dispensations. So, Will, you
yeah, my usual one, Councillor.
Yes.
Councillor.
The district council, yeah.
Thank you.
Dorset Council. Okay. Yes. Councillor.
Sorry, Town Sergeant Cryer and member of the militia.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's necessary. I'm not putting my one of my signboards is serving police officer with Dorset Police, and one of my daughters works for Dorset Council.
All right. Shame that Steve's left temporarily. And the policeman who was here. Shame is that. Okay. Public participation. We haven't had any public here, so I don't think it's going to be a long item. No. And then we can. So, should we do? Is he coming back, Steve?
He's hoping to come back. Yes.
Okay. So, David, on to you as a Dorset councillor representing Wimborne Minster. Do you want to say a few words?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Gosh, that was quick. I will, as usual. Just a few issues which I've touched on before, and some of you may be aware of. Wimborne Road still raises its head about the speeding. I've been in touch with the Highway Department about various suggestions which could be made. All of which they may consider, and they may not. But I came to the conclusion that whatever speeding things you put up, people will not obey. I think the main problem, when you come down from Furze Hill and you approach, then there is no indication that you are actually entering a residential area, because of the trees that we've got there. It's not until you get to Bluebell Crescent that you suddenly realise, gosh, how did either side, because they're well hidden. I think this gives people a false impression. One of the suggestions that was made was that we perhaps had concealed entrance posts before you got to Bluebell Crescent, I think that was suggested by Highways when I brought it up again, and they said, well, no, we can't really put it up because there's been no accidents there. The local resident said, yes, there's no accidents there because everybody uses the bottom end of the crescent because it's an easier way to get out. I mean, if you know where I'm talking about, you appreciate that. I can see what he means. Yeah, did ask for repeater signs, 30 miles an hour on the landfill. Apparently that would be illegal under some of the traffic law. You're not allowed to have, you know, more than whatever it is. So, you know, we're still doing our best. But that's that. Some of you may know that there's an order gone out now that from Burt's Hill now, just gone beyond Burt's Hill, just past the hall, going to be 20 miles an hour. That's been suggested 20 miles an hour right down to the Wimborne Road itself. And also, West Corner, I mean, West Corner, you could only do 20 miles an hour along any of those roads. But that's part of the order. And also, Allendale Road, they wanted at first to put 20 miles an hour right the way down to Elizabeth Road. But suggestion came back that perhaps if they just went as far as Lacey Drive, that might be as good as it needed. People do speed up. I mean, lived on Lacey Drive for 14 years. I know the speed at which people do travel around that state. Also, Bloor Homes have given us some money, apparently, to do a cycleway, which I assume is going to go along Allenview Road, right down to Elizabeth Road, where they can get access into the school. When that will happen, I don't know. Where they're going to put a cycleway along Allendale Road would be quite interesting. But that's something that has come up. There's an order about it, which some of you may have had an email about it. If you haven't, then it's online. And comments are welcome as to what it should be. Having seen the 20 miles an hour of East Street, I haven't seen anyone yet who's done 20 miles an hour of East Street. But that's another point. I mean, it's up to people what speed they're doing. Budget meetings are now going ahead. See if we can, save money. What happens is that we have two budget meetings. The first budget meeting is where each department, children's services, assets and property, they put forward their proposed budget for the coming year. And then the second budget meeting is when it's actually the actual figures that have been agreed are then discussed. And then, of course, at the council meeting in, I think it's either February or April, that's when they finally agree the budget. As you can imagine, things are getting tighter and tighter. I think the problem we've got and what we've got to look at quite seriously, Dorset is regarded as an elderly county. Unless we can actually, keep younger people within the county, I mean, they're the ones who will be paying the taxes. It's going to be a difficult situation in the next 5 to 10 years. Seeing where we're going, so it's something that has to be looked at. I mean, that is something that it's in hand. And you may be pleased to know that if we get a bad winter, we're going to be all right on gritting. 23 routes are laid out, a vital 23 routes, 684 miles, 100 men standing by 25 new vehicles are going to be ridding our roads. And what happens is that there is a temperature gauge, it goes down to 0.5, then the major roads complete, and then it begins to drop down below that. That's when they start ridding the smaller roads, so that people who live in the middle of nowhere hopefully can get somewhere if they want to. So that's it. And finally, some of you may know this, I found out at the weekend when I went to visit a resident who belongs to one of the housing association. I believe that Astor is now moving its headquarters to Devizes, Astor Housing. Somebody told me they rang up and they said, well, no, we're moving to Devizes now, and I understand that Eastborough is possibly moving to Christchurch headquarters. For those of you who do know, and for those who don't know, at the moment, Eastborough have been meeting in that large house on West Street.
They're closed.
Close that now, yes, because they're moving. Yeah, that's right. Moving to Christchurch. But, yeah. So I think that's it, basically.
Thanks very much, councillor Moore.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Councillor Chakawata, would you like to add anything?
Thank you.
You need to stand.
Thank you. I think the issues regarding the speeding on Cranbourne Road, one of the issues they look into is previous accidents. They need to be reported, and they need to be fatalities. 1 or 2 accidents that have happened on the old butchery highly. I think the last accident was due to nothing to do with the road, but driver error. That's not taken into the figure. So it's one of those issues that they look into. And I think probably a more recent issue, a lot of road closures in Wimborne, St. Margaret's Hill, Stone Lane, you can't get to Blandford also. I didn't get notification as a councillor, so but I'll chase that up. It's making it very difficult for people who live in Blandford to come through, vice versa. But I don't know whether we got any notification. I can't remember getting any of it. It's making moving around very difficult for residents, especially those who live near the hospital or need access to Cowell Bridge and other places. That's really tricky. The roads, Chris, and other people. So that's really tricky. Yeah, thank you, Chair.
Thank you, and I hope your neck gets better soon.
Thank you very much.
Okay, in terms of the mayor's report, just say 1 or 2 things. So first of all this fundraising that we're doing for the hospital and Planet Wimborne is going well. Set a target of 5,000. We're up to 3,000 really altogether so far. Very, very well supported. I want to record that Gary's done a great job in terms of publicising. I mean, I wonder if people get a bit tired of seeing all this stuff, but anyway, it does get bums on seats at events, so that's really good. Anything else? We have got, I went and did a thing with the scouts, and we have now got a guide who's like the mayor's cadet,
Yes.
mayor's cadet, who will be with me on Remembrance Sunday. So that's interesting. And we've got school council coming up, which we're planning for currently. Should we just go around the table then? Councillor Roberts, anything you want to report?
I was just trying to think, Chairman, of what I actually have done recently. The only thing I've actually attended is that in one of the 2 biannual meetings of St Margaret's and Stones. Nothing came up there, but we have had a great problem in West Street with one tenant. But after various things that have been done, they have now departed. And the other people who are joining them had an awful lot of problems with them. So it was basically noise problems all night. So we're now looking into what's going to happen next. But I think that's all I've been to recently.
I went to a Twin Association event at the school, at Allendale, when the kids all do plays and songs for the Vallon.
That's the one. I don't do that.
Oh, you don't even. It's very pleasurable actually watching these kids. I thought they were all singing French, they didn't. All of them sang in English, but anyway. No. Councillor Hector.
So we recently had the Planet Wimborne Green Festival.
Mm-hmm.
So as representative for that, I was available for 2 of the sessions. One was the meeting that we had all on the green with all our stands, and I was part of Wimborne Warm Waste for that. So we had an installation for blister packs to highlight all the waste issues around blister packs. And then the second, we had a River Allen listening with Professor Adrian Newton, and that was very special because he had this special underwater listening equipment to hear all the different ecology that was underneath the water, and a bit of a quiz. So that was great. And then also I have been canvassing in the community for help for Community Speedwatch with the Cranbourne Road and Victoria Road.
You got a great response though, didn't you?
Yes, good response. Yeah, it's difficult going out on social media because you can attract a very mixed bunch. Nevertheless, I think it paid off and we have got a group together.
Welcome you. Okay, councillor Ryan.
Really done anything really. I've been getting quite a lot of complaints about the vegetation on Victoria Road, which we're able to do something about, but that's it really.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Sandy.
Yeah, I attended the advice trustees advice bureau on the 22nd. Not much of interest to us, I think, discussed. They've got a couple of interesting initiatives. They have a mobile bus which goes out now on visits around certain areas to allow access. They seem very well organised, and very well committed. I'm hoping to attend their offices, just nosy good to see exactly what they do, how they do it. So that's the future. I also attended the Helen evening in Minster, and that was thoroughly. Well, that was on the 4th, last Thursday. That was excellent.
Yes, I think I went to the 4th. Did you go to 7th?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. That was great. It's just nice to see sort of local kids and people just doing their things, and that's.
Thank you. Councillor Brown.
Yeah, I did attended Walford Mill they asked me to come in costume and do a sit-in for their new over 60 artists and chat event, which was quite good fun, and they were oversubscribed. The nice thing is that they're developing their programme at Walford Mill to do more outreach and more community events, which is great. And I also attended both sessions of the Wimborne session, the 4:30 and the 7:30.
You knew the words, but
It was great fun. A couple of constituents have asked me about lighting in the Waitrose area when at night. A few people have said to me now that they feel a little bit feared about the lack of lighting walking through there at night, which I think is probably something that we should try and consider. I did ask of CCTV when we attended the CCTV session. So, yeah, that's me.
Okay, thanks. Councillor Nash.
I attended the Panic Wimborne Green Festival and stood there and handed out some information about the Fair Cafe. It was very successful, very competitive, very well attended, and attended the Big Mayor's Quiz, which was lovely.
Sorry, last bit.
The Big Mayor's Quiz, thank you for all.
Oh, you did. Yes. Yeah. Well, thanks for coming. Councillor Jacks.
Nothing with the form.
You came to the quiz.
Well, I enjoyed the quiz, it was great, yeah, it would be nice if you could actually be at the table here, but I won't mention that.
It was funny actually, because on the night there were two chaps came by themselves, and I said, "Why don't you join the team?" And they said, "No, we'll be fine." But I sort of insisted they joined the team. I think it was your team, wasn't it? And you were the winning team. You were the winning team. Councillor Trim.
No, I've got nothing.
Okay. Councillor White.
I think I attended a Desert Council Committee for the Public and Health Overview Committee. So we approved about 3 policies. One is on the housing sector in terms of grants and funding to be given to local residents. The other one is for children first, making sure that more prevention than treatment for children to make sure that they don't go into care. Then the next one was about syllabus regarding religious education. I was not very keen on religious education back in the day, but we approved this anyway. So those are 3 things that I attended earlier this afternoon, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Billington.
I got involved in a couple of quizzes. One of them was yours, and also I attended the meeting at the CCTV, which I found very illuminating, and it raised a couple of issues about maybe we should taking advice of the people who actually are on the ground, as it were. Maybe we should think about recycling a couple of cameras and seeing if that's something which we could afford to do.
Thank you. Councillor Burt.
No, nothing from me, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, on to item 6, which is the council minutes. So appendix 1. Any comments on those? Proposer, that they're accurate? Yes, proposed by councillor Nash, seconded by councillor Hector. All those in favour? Thank you.
So, sorry, so was everybody in favour? Are you abstaining because you weren't there, or?
I wasn't there, but I'm happy to vote
Okay.
whether they be accepted.
Should we vote again for you?
No, it's just, and then Anne, do you have a question?
Well, I haven't actually seen the appendices, so.
Okay, so they're up here now. Do you want to have a quick look? Do you want to have a read of them?
Now that one will be all right, I suspect.
So can we just do it again then, please?
Okay, all those in favour? Councillor Jaggs, are you putting your hand up?
I wasn't there, so.
You weren't there, okay.
Sorry, there was one tiny thing at the back.
Councillor Nash.
The word draft is spelled incorrectly. This.
Thank you.
Where is it? Sorry, hold on.
Word drop.
It's on left there.
Oh, yeah, no, that one's not on the original. That's
That's gone.
fine. That is fine. Thank you.
It's a fraudulent slip, I think, really. Okay, and then you may wonder why we've got the minutes from the 14th of May, the annual meeting, just to approve those, because they've been revised.
So let me, if I get them up, it's easy to explain. So when I was checking the internal auditor's report, I wanted to check the minute reference for us losing our general power of competency. So I went to the meeting which covered it, and I realised I'd actually missed it from the minutes. So there's a section highlighted in yellow, which are shown in as 12A. And that is where we covered the noting that we lost the general power of competence. So what I'm asking is that I get proposals for these reviewed minutes to be signed.
Okay, we've got a proposer.
Who was present out of interest, Louise? Could you just?
What is the what, sorry?
Who was present at the meeting? I don't know if I was.
So that meeting was. It was our annual meeting on the 14th of May.
Okay, so proposal chuck and butter, councillor, and second, councillor, second, councillor Roberts, all those in favour?
There weren't many of us then.
No, so you don't all have to vote. Some can abstain or you can vote. It's really up to you. So you're happy? Is everyone in favour, basically? Or have we got any abstentions?
Any abstentions?
I would stay if I wasn't there.
Yeah.
Right, so we've got 2, 3. 3 abstentions. 4.
5 abstentions. Thank you.
Okay, item 7 on your agenda is committee minutes and working group notes. We just really have to note these. The Recreation, Leisure and Buildings Committee on the 1st of October, Planning and Environment on the 8th of October, Finance and Governance on the 15th of October, Community Engagement and Liaison Committee on the 22nd of October. Does anybody want to raise anything about those minutes of those meetings? Okay, so we just note we'll cut that. Yeah. And the next one is item 8. This was the Community Events and Liaison Committee met on the 22nd of October, and we discussed at that meeting about whether we should express an interest in the Dorset Town of Culture in 2026, Appendix 7. So if we deal with that first. So we did discuss for some time about whether it was appropriate, could we afford it, how would the town benefit? And I think the report you've got has got some of the detail there. But for those who are at the meeting, do you want to just recall 1 or 2 things that we talked about? You can remember. Councillor Hector.
So in the meeting, I had reservations that I could see why it would be important to the town to be awarded this status, but I came from more a stance of where we're going to find this money. So you actually have to find an additional £30,000 that can't be from another pot moved to somewhere else to fund this. £30,000, I did feel that probably wouldn't go that far, even with the match back from the people giving us their grant, because we did discuss the budget of what events cost, and actually, in light of that, I think it won't go that far. My stance really was the fact that people are struggling to pay their bills at the moment, deciding whether to eat dinner or to pay the bill for the heating. And Wimborne Food Bank is being used now more than ever. So to potentially cause an inflation in council tax to fund this, I didn't feel that comfortable with that being a sort of something we should pursue.
So just to add that the funding, we have to put 30,000 in. That can be over 2 financial years. Dorset Council will then give us 30,000 and they'll help us apply for a grant, 40,000. So altogether it's 100,000. Councillor Roberts.
I was at that meeting, Chairman, and I must admit I completely agree with Councillor Hector. I have written down a whole load here of things that we support in the town, you know, the History Festival, carols in the corn markets, Christmas parade, Christmas lights. It's not so much supporting it financially, but we are a very progressive town. We have the Literary Festival, we have the Folk Festival, we have Arts Week. And I just feel that with the right promotion, we do not need to go into this town of culture or whatever they call it. We can actually promote ourselves. We have an events officer. I just feel that, along with Councillor Hector, that the town is suffering greatly. I don't know how many of you know how many people go to the food bank. I've been round at the Allendale and seen them there, down at the other one as well. I know what, looking through my bills this week, my council tax is what, £264 a month. And for anyone else to find something that's probably over the that of their pensions, it is going to be very, very difficult. And I cannot see that, you know, that we can't do this culture thing ourselves. We have got the culture here. We can go forward without putting in an enormous amount of money. Chris put on, and his Renegades put on their festival, which unfortunately the second day got rained out. But it was a very, very interesting thing. And I just feel that we don't need that much.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Sandy. And then we'll go to you.
I've been to attend the meeting. So I have spent some time reading the literature. And my impression from reading the literature, and I would urge everybody to read very carefully, because Councillor Roberts talks about the culture that exists in this town. And I would second what she said. And looking at the bonjour and things like that, we do have a thriving culture. But the point that I would make, the reason I would ask people to read this literature these people produce is that it's not, they don't want us, they don't want our culture. What they want is for us to change our culture to meet their criteria. And that, I don't think, is going to lead, is what we maybe think we're doing. And I would entirely agree with Councillor Hector and Councillor Roberts. We have to question whether that would be a sensible expenditure of money, particularly given when there are other things we talked about at the police meeting that Councillor Billington mentioned. The possibility of trying to see if we can find the money to put some what they call constables, some local people on the ground, you know, to do some policing for us, which would have a far greater benefit, I think, than engaging the finances necessary to take part in this pitch, which we may not succeed in anyway.
Thank you. Councillor Billington.
Well, just to refer to the meeting, both Councillor Hector and Councillor Roberts' views were taken into account and in many ways agreed with. However, the general consensus at the meeting was that this would be a good thing to do because it would develop the town in many ways. And it would be another way of bringing in what are at the moment satellite estates that we have building up around the community. And indeed, we do have a very active and a very worthwhile cultural hub. But bringing this together and making sure we centre on the availability of free events to all participants would be a way of looking at whether the money is being well spent or not. And nobody's mentioned yet about the idea of sponsorship. So we may well be able to offset some of the 30,000 by a degree of sponsorship. And we have organisations in the town who may well be willing to support us on that, as well as any fundraising events we want. I'm a driver for Wimborne Food Bank, and I'm going there tomorrow as it happens. And I'm very well aware of the hardship many people are facing at the moment. But hardship is not just alleviated by having extra food on the table or knowing that people care about you. There's also the benefit of life itself and the joy of seeing young people and the elderly taking part in an enriching activity contributes to the value of life.
Thank you. Councillor Jacks.
Thank you, Chair. I've heard the comments made about finance. I do accept other real challenges there. But when I looked at this news of the council, I thought this was a real opportunity to get a helicopter view of what all goes on, and then to try and align what does happen already in the town, which is massive, to things we are trying to do, like to reach out to new estates, like the new developments, and as you know, I do a lot of canoeing, but under the bypass bridge, there's graffiti. Well, this is a chance to link up on these recreational areas and make that public art, which is worth looking at, rather than you want to avoid. So, and that's a very microscopic thing. I thought the actual project would give an opportunity to say, well, how does all we're doing link? How can we enhance that? I suppose I've got a question at the end, and that is, if we can attract sponsorship, does that mean that the council will spend less than the 30,000? Or is it just going to be additional money to the 30,000?
I mean, one possibility, and the town clerk may want to mention this, but BID might be interested in supporting this, do you think?
Yeah, we could go out to our local partners to see if they'd be interested in helping fund the event from our point of view, so we don't have to come up with the original 30,000. And the other option is that you don't have to specifically add it to your precept every year. You could look at how healthy you think our general reserves are.
Any other comments? Councillor Brown, then Councillor Vaughan.
Yeah, I attended the meeting and I think it's at this stage, it's just an expression of interest, isn't it? And so I think in terms of going forward, an expression of interest without a full commitment is not a bad way to go. And I agree with Councillor Billington that it's very difficult to measure the actual benefit of joy, happiness and having fun, which I think we could do on top of what we already do. But I would have to think it is just, I hope, just an expression of interest, and there would be no automatic need to increase the precept to accommodate this.
Okay, Councillor Ronan.
Yeah, I'm not balanced. I think I think it's a good idea. I think we raise the status of the town. I'd make a couple of points. Firstly, all the things we're doing already, I think what this would probably do is put a framework on it. It's sort of as if there'll be anything, the other stuff won't be out. And secondly, I would say that I think it's very important, the points that Councillor Hector has raised, that actually we've got to make sure we have events which are open to all sorts of people, to everybody. And secondly, I'm not sure what you mean by sort of, they want us to adopt our cultures, and I'm not sure what you meant by that one. Have you read it? No, I haven't read that. I would suggest they will understand what you're right. Okay. But what I would say is that I think that whatever we do should reflect the range of culture, not only in Wimborne, but you must across the nation as a whole.
Sorry, Councillor Sandy.
You know, I think it needs to reflect
Councillor
the
Ryan.
fact that we live in Britain, the 21st century.
Hmm.
So I would like to see a range of cultural events, not only of sort of mainstream culture, but other cultures as well.
So can I just say a word? I go on these chain gang days, where all the mayors go, and I did go to Bridport. And they did this about 2 years ago. They said it totally invigorated their town. Their theme was youth, and it was getting youth participation in the arts across the town. And they were very positive. And at the moment, it's Weymouth and Portland, which have got some very poor areas. But again, they've got a theme of
It's inclusion and community wellbeing for next year.
and community wellbeing. Okay, I think this is an important topic. Councillor Sandy, have you finished? You finished?
No, I would just say that nobody's against culture. We've already got plenty of culture here. But I think that you need to look, read very carefully what these people are proposing. They're not proposing that we adopt Wimborne culture and we bring out Wimborne culture. They've got their own idea of what they want to see culture-wise.
So they
That may be fair enough, but it's important that everybody appreciates that.
So I think they will apply that criteria when they select the winning town. At the end of the day, the
You're
programme.
not going to win unless you fulfil the criteria. They think you can fulfil the criteria. So you're going to have a plan in place to meet that criteria. Now, I might agree with Chris that, or Councillor, the expression of interest at this stage may well be of no detriment. But I would urge it to read very carefully what is in on the website.
I think
It's quite interesting.
I'm sure quite a few people have read the detail. Okay, any other comments? Councillor Roberts.
Just come back, Chairman, and say that I have listed down here 20 things just off the top of my head that we have in the town that go encompass the whole of the town, from Arts Week to VE Day, which will be coming up shortly, the History Festival, the Literary Festival, the Folk Festival, Art Week. You know, we do an awful lot in the town, the model town, the museum, the Minster. So I think that all we really need to do is to get it all together and put it in, get it together and sort it for ourselves.
Okay, any other points? Okay, so we're going to vote now, and the vote is whether we should put in an expression of interest of the town of Culture for 2026.
You need to propose it first.
So we need a proposer. Councillor Billington. Oh, do you want to say something? Councillor English.
It's voting on the development box as part of this package, or is it?
No, we're doing that separately. Yeah. Okay, so proposer from Councillor Billington, second.
So just to be clear, it's proposing to submit an expression of interest. Yeah, thank you.
That's all. Yeah, seconder, Councillor Ryan. All those in favour?
So was the seconder Councillor Brown, right? Sorry. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
All those against? 3.
3 against.
Any abstentions? 1 abstention. Okay, so that's carried. The second bit on that item was about the 2 red phone boxes in the square. And I think you've got appendix 8 about that. So we pay £2. We then have to manage the phone boxes and take responsibility for them. And at the sales committee, we start to talk about proposals for that. I think there's quite a healthy interest in this idea. But any comments? Anything I should have said? Town clerk.
Well, I think most phone boxes these days are adopted through the BT process with parish and town councils. I think the complication we have that they're both listed. So we will not be able to change anything fundamental about the look inside or outside of the phone boxes. So that'll dictate what projects we try and take forward. But I don't necessarily think it's a bad idea. We just will, if we adopt them, we'll need to budget for general maintenance and upkeep in the future.
So you've probably seen those around the country where there are little libraries or flower centres or some of them for young people. That's amazing.
So what do we really, do you have to have a permit? Are we able to move them to the library and that sort of thing? Where are we going with this?
They have to stay where they are. They have to look as they do.
Internally and externally?
Yes, we could probably do some changes, but we will have to apply for building consent under the listed status of them. So there'll be a cost implication, because we'll have to put planning application in.
So it strikes me that this is someone else's responsibility at the moment, but actually, and it would be good for us if we can change it.
Right, good. Councillor Burt?
Yeah, I printed it off, but I must confess, Mr. Mayor, I haven't read it all. And lots of these pictures, it's full of books and all sorts. Will both of those telephone kiosks contain a telephone?
It depends on what project the council wants to do with them.
I see. So all we're really doing is keeping them there to look at, but they won't have the use of what they were provided for in the first place. There may not be a telephone.
That's right.
And we would be, I presume, responsible for the maintenance and the repairs that will occur. That's always seems to, with broken glass and.
That's correct. And if we did do something that involved power, we'd be responsible for the charges incurred for electricity.
And I can't see any point in filling them with books, because you go around the town, there's bookshops and there's at the museum, there's a second-hand bookstore.
But you do see those around the country.
And I just think it could be a cost on us, which I don't know whether it's warranted, but there we are. They look pretty.
Thank you. Councillor Hector?
I was just going to agree with Councillor Burt, but I see the value in keeping them there aesthetically, and they are great to see still about. But I didn't want to take away from Wimborne Library, the Med, Gulliver's Bookshop. So I thought the library option of repurposing them probably wouldn't work. But other options, maybe with Wimborne in Bloom, that might be a better option.
Park.
So at the CALP meeting, there was a number of ideas put forward, and I think if the council were to adopt them, we'd like to go up for consultation first to see actually what would be supported, and also go to the school council to see what their view is as well. And some of the ideas were housing a defibrillator, planting more flowers, an art display, a tourist hub, a communication hub in terms of lockers for mobile phones and a Wi-Fi signal, a communications project through the Royal Signals, a book exchange. So there's lots of ideas.
Councillor.
So I know that in Holt and in Chardbury, they've repurposed the library and other things. So I think the issue for me, I want to know the cost of maintenance. How much is it going to cost on ongoing? They've probably had them for probably a year, even longer. So they have an idea how much it has costed them to look after for the year.
So we need to research that.
Yeah. So as part of the consultation, I think it's really benchmarking in terms of cost. That will help us in decision making.
So, Town Clerk, do you want to come back on that?
No, I mean, we've got actually, Hull Hill Parish Council just adopted one, and as a result, they have to go and repaint it. So I'm asking to find out how much that cost, but they'd already made the decision to adopt this.
Councillor Trim?
I don't see a point in having it, to be honest. I think if you've already got a telephone box that's there, then change it. But why put two in the square? I just think it clutters the square.
There's already two in the square.
They've been there for donkey's years.
Yeah.
There's two in the square.
Yeah, not these though.
Yeah. It's us taking responsibility for those and using them for a different purpose. No.
What do I think about that?
Going to move on, Councillor Trim. Okay, any other points?
I think the issue that we have is that They are falling into disrepair in physically, no one is maintaining them. BT use them as an emergency line only purpose. And if we don't adopt them, I don't know what will happen to them. And they have been, there is some feedback from residents, businesses, etc., that they don't look very nice in the town square aesthetics of it all.
Councillor Nash.
So as it stands, the listed buildings, are they not, British Telecom, not British, are they not required to keep the upkeep? Is this just something we're not keeping them honest about?
I think that's not our remit, it's Dorset Council, and I don't think there's any enforcement of anything in terms of how they should be kept. As long as materially they don't change, that's all that matters with listed buildings.
Well, I have to say that.
Hang on. Oh, sorry, you want to speak? Yes. Carry on.
I have to say, the only listed building, I think you may be a little bit misguided. I agree with Councillor Nash that there will be an obligation. Whether that obligation is enforced by the local enforcement authorities is another question. But in principle, yes, they should keep upkeep. That's what you have to do with this building.
Yeah, thank you.
I think that the general opinion is if someone has a listed building and they don't want to do anything, they let it fall into disrepair. That's my experience.
It's
Councillor Bennett.
If you have a look in Private Eye Fortnight, you'll see there are lists and lists of listed buildings that are being left to go to ruin. So enforcing a listing is practically impossible.
Councillor Sandley.
that's not down to that is down to the failure of the authority, down to the system. As Councillor Nash quite rightly said, the owners of that are required to upkeep it, whether they do or not. That's a matter for them, and it's a matter for the enforcement authority to ensure they do. And if they fail in that duty, well, there's nothing we can do about that.
Well, I suppose the problem is that we take responsibility about how the square looks and how it's used. Councillor Brown.
My experience of contacting the conservation officers is very positive. That if you've got a genuine concern, they do react and they do respond very quickly. So if we are worried about the upkeep of them, I'm pretty sure we could enforce it.
Councillor Trim.
I can see them now. Sorry about that.
Okay, anybody else want to comment? Councillor Roberts.
Chairman, I was just thinking that possibly we ought to, before we actually even formally present an adoption pack, so to speak, that we need to decide what we're going to use them for. Are they going to be closed? Because I can see them being used as a toilet in the evenings. A lot of the telephone kiosks in other places are where there are people living and they can keep an eye on them. There's hardly anyone lives in that square now. And I just feel like that even if Wimborne in Bloom adopted one, I think they would only be able to hang baskets on it and then you can't open the doors. So, and at the same time, perhaps someone could come and paint mine in the garden.
Okay, Councillor Jacks.
Thank you. I mean, two things. Are there any other defibrillators nearby? Just thinking,
There's one at the Allendale Centre.
There's none in the town square.
Town square, so that is one very positive use that I think could be considered if we took it on. I must admit, I'm in agreement that it'd be good to find out an estimate of what the annual cost would be to maintain them. But they are an integral part of the square, and it would be nice to see them being maintained and put to some use if we can do that, but that's a bit more information.
So, really, the proposal is that we adopt them, but I think what I'm getting a sense of is that perhaps we need to do a bit more research into this. Can we do that?
Well, can you be specific about what research you want?
Councillor
Mine is on cost, Louis, it's on cost, either we can find from BT, but ideally from other parish councils. I know Hort and Chowbury have some of these. And after the costs, those people have had them for at least a year. How much does it cost to look after, especially when things go really wrong? That's a very special paint. I remember seeing a discovery program that you don't just get that from
No, I know.
BT, it's a
Yeah.
very special aspect. So I think there's a cost implication that I'm not aware of. I don't want to go into it blind without knowing the cost, the long term. If we're talking about food banks, people are using mobile phones. I'm not really interested in that building, in that kiosk myself. I would rather use that money for other
Yeah.
things that everyone else can benefit from.
Okay, councillor Sandy?
What about the possibility of just simply sealing them up? So they're just visual items of furniture, if we couldn't decide on what to put in them. Because I just happen to think they just look nice.
Yeah. Councillor Ryan?
Yeah, but I think maybe we should have, seeing as how it's going to cost money, maybe have some idea before we proceed of what exactly we could do with them.
Yeah.
Because what we don't want to do is be to adopt them, be spending money on them, and then not really know what we're going to do with them.
Yeah. Okay, councillor Benson?
There's lots of ideas about how they're being used, but I suggest, as well as doing some research onto the costs, we have a word about benefits and see if any organisations who have taken them on give a quantifiable benefit that they've received from anything they've done.
Yeah.
Any
That's possible.
organisation that's taken them on, a quantifiable benefit.
Well, I know that's a bit vague, but should we say, let's take Bridport, for instance, if they have adopted a couple of kiosks, how have they used them, as well as what the cost is, and also, have they benefited from having them in any way at all? Whether they put a CCTV camera inside them that's reduced crime, or whether whether they've used the defibrillator 3 times and saved lives. So if there's anything beneficial that's come from them.
Okay, so I think what we're saying is that people agree is that we don't make a decision now, we do a bit more research about how much they cost to maintain, about who's responsible, and also, as John was saying, accountability with the benefits. Is that okay, Tom?
So can I just clarify a cost to maintain based on their current format? So we're just talking about repainting.
Yeah, it's probably even plus whatever it needs to maintain it throughout the year. Yeah.
In its present format, because obviously if they're using it for a certain project that has certain other additional costs to it, it wouldn't be relevant to this. I just want to make sure it's a like for like, or it's just a basic maintenance to make sure it's painted and has that on the outside, it has that look to it. Does that make sense? I explain. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, councillor Burt. And then we'll decide.
Do you have a proposition on the table yet? A proposal on the table at all?
So I think the
If you
agreement is we're going to defer this item for
If
more
you have a
information.
proposal on the table, I move that we do not adopt. When I was a kid going to school, they weren't there. I don't see that as they're not being used for what they were put there for in the first place, it will be added clutter. And I would propose that we do not adopt.
Okay, so does anyone want to second that proposal? No, I'm reading the room. I think we all feel really that we should defer this till we've done a bit of research and thought more about it. So I'm going to move us on to the next item, which is a slightly complicated one. It's about committee membership. We've worked out, haven't we, Bart, that basically most people should be on 2 committees. Councillor Burke.
Yeah, well, if you look at the figures, it's at the top line, Mr. Mayor, it gives the number of members that should be on the committee. All the committees are full. Now, I wasn't actually present, and when I put in my committee choices, I was too late. And I think there's probably only me left now, isn't it? Oh no, Bill Jakes. So there's 2 or 3 of us who don't have any committee places.
So that's,
and where there's no room anyway,
no.
unless you
no, sorry,
increase
sorry.
the number of members on the committee.
The purpose of the item is to say, let's actually revamp these committees, so everyone's got an opportunity, if they want to be on two or three, I don't know. But at the moment, Bill Jaggs is only on one, I think. Ian Sanders only on one, may want to be on another one. Some councillors on more than two committees, and again, they may want to think, can I sort of spend all this time on this work? So I think, Town Clerk, how are we going to do this?
So I think there's an opportunity. We have a scheme of delegation that sets out the terms of references for the committees. And they state that all the committees have 8 members except for the HR committee. What we're asking is the current membership on some of them is full. Would anyone reconsider coming off to facilitate another councillor who is not on that committee going forward?
Councillor Brown.
I'd be happy to come off, finance, governance and planning.
Thanks very much. Councillor Billington.
I'd be happy to come off finance and governance.
Anybody else? Councillor Ryan.
I was going to say the same actually, but I'm happy to come off human resources.
So I'm happy to go on the finance.
Okay.
Right, that's good. Anybody else? Councillor Jaggs.
Not on any committee at the moment, subcommittee at the moment. I would like to be considered for, well, I do what I have to do basically, but if I was asked, it would be planning, environment, recreation buildings or community events and liaison. But I'm happy to fit in as.
Okay, so we're noting all these, aren't we?
I am.
And then you've got to work it all out.
Yes. It won't, so recreation and leisure and Kelk, you won't get into either of those because no one else has offered to come off either of those.
Unless somebody doesn't know.
So it's just planning. and
Councillor
environment.
Ryan.
If it would help, I would come off that one.
Which one?
And recreation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Councillor Roberts.
Can I just say, Chairman, that even if you come off a committee, there is nothing to stop you coming to the committee meeting and sitting at the back. And if you have a question, to put it in beforehand. You might find it very informative to attend a few more committee meetings than is necessary.
You are the model for this. Excellent. Okay, anybody else? Town Clerk.
And there might be some councillors that only want to be on none or one committee. So I'll take that into account as well.
Okay, so we're going to take that away and discuss it and come up with a, we'll write to you shortly to say what we're proposing. Okay. Item 10 is the cemetery. It's an activity report from the 1st of April to 3rd of September 24. And we just need to note that report. Does anybody want to say anything about that? I think your idea, Councillor Ryan, about having an open day, that I think we're taking that forward. Is that right?
Yes, it's going to the, is it community events liaison?
Yeah.
It will go at some point. It's been agreed in principle. So
Yeah.
it will get.
Okay, good. And I think there's a notion of set up of Friends of the Cemetery organisation, possibly. Councillor Ryan.
Yeah, I thought the committee meeting we had, I thought the purpose of that was to put it forward to the next stage, because full council. Is that tonight?
No, it's I think it's to what do the notes say of the meeting?
Anybody remember?
I've got it. Yeah.
There we go.
So all we did was in agreeing the actual concept was approved. I think we need to go away, do some work about it and then report back on what's going to be delivered.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then Councillor Roberts.
I was just going to say, perhaps one person we ought to contact is Brian Richmond, who was the cemetery superintendent for many years, he and his father, and they know or did know where I know our clerk has done the bits and pieces about finding out the graves, but they've got to know the history behind them as well.
Okay, thanks for that. Okay, the next item is the feedback from our entry for Cemetery of the Year award. We want to congratulate Rebecca on putting this forward, and I think she came out above the national average in this thing. Councillor
I
Billington.
congratulate her. I looked through it. I thought it's a phenomenal piece of work. I mean, she got through all that detail. It was just, it was terrific. I was mesmerised by it. So congratulations to all those behind it.
And she's very keen to try again next year.
This was the first year of applying, so she's done really, really well.
Yeah.
Okay, and now we've got a little verbal report from the town clerk following break-in and theft at the cemetery workshop on the 5th of October.
So the alarm went off on the evening or the late afternoon on that date, and they broke in, they stole a couple of items of equipment. We are claiming through the insurance, reported it to police and reviewing the security across Red Cross and the cemetery to see if we added a cage of some sort, whether it would affect our insurance premium. That's an ongoing query with the insurance company.
Okay, so just for noting that. And then item 4 there, to consider a request from Dorset Council to review the current cyclist signage at the cemetery site. So you want to just give us a bit of background? Well,
So I don't know if you found the report helpful. I tried to put in the background information. So basically, we are currently facing a situation whereby the town council inherited a health and safety concern and acted upon that by putting in some signage asking cyclists to dismount. And after we've done that signage, Dorset Council now want to take us down because it's part of a network that they promote. That's it in a nutshell, really.
so Councillor Billington.
Yeah, I read through it. Thank you very much for that clarification. I read through this and I myself have stood there with my bike and thought, blimey, I've got to walk along there. There's nobody around. Why on earth do I have to walk around there? So I would agree with item 4 recommendations when the manager himself says removing the cyclists might sounds and putting some alternative signage, which is, I forgot what it is now, above there. Is there any possibility of also including that a request for quiet? Because one of the noisiest things you find now when you go for a walk is a group of cyclists going back and doing, screaming their heads off at each other. It just destroys any peace at all. So maybe as they are going through the cemetery, they could observe a little bit of peace and quiet. But I think they certainly should have the right to cycle through it.
And respect.
And respect indeed, not for the residents, it doesn't worry them, but for the mourners and other people passing by.
The residents are fairly quiet.
They are, yes.
Councillor Chakrabarty.
Yeah, so I do use that cemetery road for when I'm going for regular walks. Cyclists do speed up quite a bit. So I've seen people with children, with dogs, and they have to be quite mindful, especially with the ones with the racing bikes. When they're in groups, it becomes quite unmanageable. I know that's the request from Dorset Council, but do they actually have the power to enforce it, or will you negotiate?
It's a private road.
So we can ignore them.
We can ignore them. They won't be very happy because as you'll see, they've already gone out to talk to some of the other groups like the BH Active and got a little bit of support for their request. So it might be a little bit of a PR minefield, but think about why the original request came in and why we changed it. And it was a health and safety issue brought up by a resident because she thought she was going to hit cyclists because they go through so quickly.
Those concerns, those concerns remain. So I do use that road quite a bit, and I think I understand where they're coming from. There's probably a balancing act rather than just sort of saying yes, their request. There may all be need for further negotiation because the signs are put there for a reason. People can still cycle, but maybe a bit slower, maybe for a better time. But I do see people when they're in groups 15, 20, they do go quite a bit faster. Yeah.
Councillor Sandy.
I would just like to say, I walk my dog probably twice a day. I wish I'd seen Councillor Billington pushing his bike, because it's the only time I've ever noticed anyone doing it. The sign appears to have no effect at all. So I think its removal would probably be unnoticed, to be honest.
Any other comments? Councillor Brown.
Would there be any use in having a cycle lane down one side of the bus?
Clark?
Well, that's a very different path to go down, pardon the pun. It would be our decision, it wouldn't be a cycle route in terms of what is known by other people to be a cycle route on a highway, for instance, because it's a private road. And it doesn't deal with the issue of the resident at the end concerned about the cyclist going through and hitting one.
Okay, councillor Chakawata.
It's a good point, Chris, but I wonder because we have funeral hotels going in, they'll probably struggle with the space. For example, probably need narrowing of the road at some point, I suspect, if you have to create. But I understand it's a safety issue, but vehicles might struggle to turn around. They do already when I've seen them turned again. Yeah.
So just remind us, what advice are you looking for?
The decision is whether you want to keep the signage as it is, deny the request from Dorset Council, or review the signage and follow the recommendation. Myself and Rebecca sat for quite a while deliberating over this and weighing up the health and safety concern versus a route for cyclists as advertised externally on a private road. It's a difficult one.
Councillor Booth.
Looking at the suggestion for the alternative signage, it says considerate cycling welcomed and painting the word slow at the entrances and exits. There's also the possibility, which I think is mentioned in here, that having a sign preventing something happening, and then, as Councillor Sandy said, most people completely ignoring it is a recipe for confrontation.
So if you want to go to the recommendation?
So devil's advocate, my question would be if cyclists ignore the cyclist dismount, are they going to ignore the considerate cycle, whatever you decide? Will they still ignore it? Because I think considerate cyclists, I like to think myself as one, would follow the signage, but there's certain cyclists that just won't because they're on a route. So it's difficult.
Councillor Roberts.
I would just say, Chairman, at one point, cycling was forbidden through the cemetery, as were dogs. I can't think of I think there's a third one, but they were actually prohibited at one time, but now they're not.
Okay. Anything else? Councillor Jacks?
The only thing I'll mention is it is a safe cyclist to use if they use it. And I'd have some concerns if we were somehow making people go on the main road there when there is another route. So people will cycle down it. So it's about trying to educate them, isn't it?
Okay, so
Does anyone want to propose anything?
Councillor Billings.
Can I propose that you accept the recommendations of the cemetery manager?
And seconded by Councillor Sandy. All those in favour?
Who's against?
That's me.
One against? Any abstentions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 11, nearly there. Legal transfer of Parliamentary Drive allotments to consider, approve and sign the TP1 land transfer document and deed of covenant for Parliamentary Drive allotments.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Can I suggest, as this is a lease issue, we go into exempt business, please?
Yeah.
Proposal for exempt business.
Somebody wants to propose that? Councillor Nash, yeah. Anybody want to second that? Councillor Jacks, all those in favour?
So I don't know what that means.
So because we're dealing with sensitive information, it's regards to a solicitor's update with regards to a land transfer. So it's legal, confidential information. We can go into what's called exempt business, which means we exclude the press and the public.
Okay, thank you.
Does that mean we've got to exclude Councillor
Yes,
Morgan?
yeah. And I'll turn the recording off.
Afraid you have to go.
Okay.
Very good coming back.
Yeah,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
thank you, David.